And I got to tell you, Soaz comes over here calm and collected, and I'm the one reeling in shock after a commanding 3-0. Soaz, just tell me, how does it feel to win so dominantly?
Well, it feels good to be the underdog.
Makes a lot of sense coming in. Now tell me, we heard a lot about Caps punishing mistakes, that being the big strategy for the team. Was that a sentiment shared by all of Fnatic when it came to preparing for this series?
We thought that it will be a lot more tough to play against H2K, especially in terms of drafting, but it didn't feel like they just target too much like our comfort picks or whatever, and I feel like they didn't adapt very well in terms of drafting. Like I was more scared of other top laners than he played, at least myself. So I guess they just went for comfort, and we went for comfort as well. Like we didn't even, we played like we played like 2 or 3 games of Twitch, and we played 0 games of Vayne. So we just went with the flow already.
I find that, I mean, almost impossible to believe, just picking the Vayne in the series. So tell me, when it came to that pick ban, where Vayne was locked in, what was the communication around a pick that you guys had not practiced?
Well, I think there was like 4 AD ban or something, and that Ezreal Tam, we were thinking, like, I'm pretty sure most people were thinking Lucian because like the go-to pick, but we were thinking that Vayne was insanely strong there against their I can't remember what was their top, maybe Gragas?
Gragas.
Yeah, their Gragas, Tam, Ezreal, like no one could possibly touch the Vayne. So, and Vayne will deal a lot more damage than Lucian would. So it was just, you know, to play the champion, it's not that hard against the lane that they had. So it was fine for him to go for this pick.
Was there ever any hesitation or doubt from you guys as a team when it came to Reckless picking these things that we might not call meta AD carries, these high-risk picks like maybe the Vayne, or were you guys 100% confident in him from the start?
I mean, in the situation that we are in, I don't think it's a risky pick, because no matter what he plays, he will be fine on lane. He's playing against Ezreal Tam. Like it's on lane, it's supposed to be really easy, you know. So he could basically pick anything and be fine, so we just decided for the Vayne.
Coming into this week, I think everyone had their eyes on Shen, Lee Sin, Kennen. Clearly H2K did as well, banning it out in so many games. Was that something that you guys were aware of when it came to planning for the week, developing your strategies? What was your thoughts coming into it?
When we did the draft and stuff yesterday and today, we got their first 3 bans. Like, it was pretty obvious to us, so we're only wondering if they do other bans than we expected, and yeah, the draft went like 100% for us in terms of like preparation, because we knew what they were gonna ban and they banned what we thought they would. So draft went good. Like usually you prepare for 1-2 games and then you just like decide depending of your games on stage what you're gonna do, but it's much harder to prep for more than 1 or 2 games usually.
What's the difference here? Because in the regular season, there was a ton of criticism kind of levied at your guys' drafting phase. What's the difference here that made it so successful for you guys?
We're just playing animal style, so I guess animal style just fit us, I guess. I don't know.
All right. What do you mean by animal style for everyone at home? Just define that for me.
We learned a lot from Uro.
All right. Maybe a little flame there, not sure. We'll take it as a compliment since you 3-0'd.
Exactly. It's no flame, just compliments.
All right, so some very aggressive play coming out. Well, looking overall at how things have been unfolding, communication in the team seems to be improving constantly. What was the factor there when it came to preparation? Was communication a focus for you guys, or have things just been getting better naturally over the course of the split?
Well, it's not like we had a lot of issues, like either team related or like a lot of different issues during the split. It's not like we focused too much on communication. With like, we didn't even have any goals in practice or whatever. We just practice and try to get good at the style that we are playing right now, and see how far we can go with it.
All right, you've called it animal style. It's going to have to go up against G2 in the coming week. Kind of give me your thoughts on that series overall. I mean, maybe you're not quite ready for it yet, but what is your thoughts for preparing for that series?
Well, I think that we should have won before Cat beat G2, we should have won against them. We just threw quite a lot. Like I threw one time, and some of my teammates threw some other time too. So we should have won this game. So I'm expecting a series that will be a lot closer than this one, but I'm pretty sure we can take it.
All right, that is a ton of confidence coming from you. I think when people look at your teams, there's a lot of attention that goes kind of towards the bot lane. Reckless and Jez is performing incredibly well this series, going up against Sven and Mithy, widely considered the best bottom lane in Europe. How do you think that matchup is going to play out? Can they battle the current kings of Europe?
Well, it's for sure going to be tough. I think in terms of matchups, like H2K is pretty good as well, like in terms of laners and everything. So it just comes down to like team fights, taking the right fights, and yeah, it's gonna depend a lot of team fighting. I think against G2 and Picks and Bans, obviously.
All right, and from the way that you played on stage today, do you feel like you can out-execute in those team fights, outperform G2 overall, pretty confidently?
Well, it obviously depends to Picks and Bans. So I cannot know. We will find out.
All right. Well, looking forward, you guys have had massive fan support along the way, so I'm just curious if there's anything you'd like to say from those fans. I've heard they've been very vocal here in the audience today. Yeah,
surprisingly, there's been, since I rejoined Fnatic, not only me, but I feel like for the team as well, there's been a lot of support from the fans, even though we don't have like the greatest split before playoffs. So it feels really nice to have a lot of support for once.
All right, good to hear it. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. Congrats again on taking the 3-0 over H2K. We'll see you guys up against G2 in the week to come. But for now, we're going to send it over to Shox and crew as we get the post-game lobby underway.
Thank you very much, Dracos, and welcome everybody to the post-game lobby, where we will be looking back on our first round of the playoffs and towards the semifinals next week. And joining me are Crepo, Sheepy, and Exile. And what a day we just had!
I mean, this is the last time I ever listened to Sheepy. I usually ask the Fisher for advice.
Ever did.
I forgot, and then I asked Sheepy what's it gonna be. H2K is gonna win 3-0. I go on the desk, I repeat that mindlessly, and I look like a clown.
Upsets are great, though, right? And we had a fantastic series, and we're going to start by taking a closer look at that, honestly, incredible performance we just saw on stage from Fnatic. They 3-0 swept today's favorites, H2K. You know, what was it? We heard from Soaz in a post-game interview. No adaptability out of H2K. Is that the TLDR, Sheepy?
Yes, I think so. They were not able to deal with whatever Fnatic put up in those series very clearly. I mean, from the weird draft, but also the way that they played it, I think everything didn't look quite together. So yeah, a little bit disappointed from H2K, but also Fnatic playing the now crowned animal style.
Tell us about the animal style.
Yeah, what is this?
Define it for me.
The animal style is when they pick champions, you're not really sure about what they are doing, and then in combinations you're also not very sure, and then suddenly they just get really good matchups and make really sick combos and taking fights that you thought you would win.
I thought it was a style of fries, actually, but this is much more interesting. Exile, Caps today. We had Caps versus Febiven. You talked about the fact that Caps is mechanically really gifted, but Febiven should have the upper hand. What happened today?
I think that Caps is just much more comfortable on the champions that he's playing right now. Like we saw, LeBlanc is insane. Also the Aurelion Sol into Syndra, which doesn't seem like on paper like a really good matchup, but he managed to like get out ahead and provide more for his team than I thought he would, and this is really impressive.
And I just want to touch on the animal side. I think it actually makes sense that you just, a lot of the times people condone to the meta, like they call them like meta slaves, where you just want to pick the best option and the best matchup on paper, but it may not be the best champion that you want to play, and it may not be as comfortable for you to then make flashy plays or forward plays. And I think that's what we saw in Fnatic. Like so many of these games, they were playing solo queues. Like Finley, pick me this champ, get me Aurelion Sol, get me Twitch, get me Camille support, and they went ham with it.
Yeah, they went ham. But Sheepy, like, okay, obviously there is an argument to be made for comfort picks, especially if you're an absolute underdog, but Yeah, of course we get the player of the series, Reckless, because he made it work, because we talk about adaptability, but when you get thrown a Twitch, a Vayne, and then obviously the Kennen, the Aurelion Sol at you, not a lot of people would have answers for that, I feel like. Or
I feel that also this is a little bit result-based analysis.
No, we never do that.
Okay.
what are you talking about?
I feel
That's the whole reason the meta exists, right?
For example, Syndra, Aurelion matchup. Like I would really like to go over the matchups just to see how it works, because I think if they bring this up against like SKT or whoever and play like weak lanes, so to say, that they should actually.
Well, I'm going to grant your wish, but a little bit later on. First, we're going to round up this portion and also take a look back at our first quarterfinal that we saw yesterday. Misfits, they advanced to the semifinals with a win over Splyce, and Splyce looked to be in the position Fnatic was in 2 games in, but then Misfits, they turned it all around.
Yeah, I think a lot of it snowballed over power in the mid lane. Maybe you can say more about it, XL.
Yeah, I think that definitely, like the LeBlanc pick enabled a lot for Misfits. And yeah, Splyce went for Kennen 3 times and didn't look as good as today.
They were setting it up for today.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, like after maybe the second Kennen game, they maybe should have, like they saw that it didn't work out too well. And like usually players lose confidence, but I guess they wanted to keep the pick up and still thought that it's good. So yeah, but Misfits played this out really well.
I mean, Kobe tweeted about it. It was one of their strongest performing scrim picks, and it can also just be, it can be coincidence 3 games in a row where like a random roam from mid screws your early game plan, and maybe a misplay in lane messes up the pick, but in essence it could work. I really think we saw this, the strength of Kennen plus Shendo today in game 3, where you need that zone from the Shen W to keep the Kennen alive as he goes for his own ultimate, because he's not the AP Kennen. He needs time to ramp up in fights. He just needs a little bit more peel, and Fnatic is much better at providing that for Reckless than Splyce was for Kobe.
Yeah, and Maxwell also said it yesterday on the desk. There is really, when it comes to pocket picks, that is a true pocket pick. He just knows the boundaries of that champion so well, but then you gotta say, well, apparently also of Twitch and of Vayne and of Lucian.
I mean, Twitch is a super cool champion because it changes the mindset of an entire opposing team, where you can no longer check minimap as like, where is this AD carry? And he can be in places where you do not expect him. It's the same when you play versus Evelyn. Evelyn always picks up in win rate when she gets reintroduced in the metagame and then falls off again when people learn how to play against it. It's the same with Twitch. Play 10 or 20 games against the Twitch and you will be much better at dealing with it.
Yeah, especially like when you scrim like 60 games a week against those static AD carries, which don't do this flashy plays like Kennen or Twitch. And suddenly someone picks this up in a game on stage. Then it looks like you don't know exactly the limits of the champion, like the player does. This is what also makes those picks extra strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, obviously. And H2K will not have practiced against a lot of the things that came out today and the curveballs. And with that, we have our lock-in for the semifinal schedule. Fnatic, they have secured the last semifinal spots, which means that we'll have G2 up against Fnatic and the Unicorns of Love up against Misfits. I feel like after watching today's matches, you guys will gladly take that matchup versus Misfits over Fnatic, maybe because the amount of curveballs. Am I correct, Shippy?
I think that I'm really not too sure. I have to like rewatch a little bit more closer the matchups, because I really think those picks are not picked for a reason. Like you cannot just go into those matchups and expect yourself to win or come out ahead. Like you will provide something in the later stages, and that's what you pick it for. I think also the pick and bans were a little bit all over the place today, or with like Esri being picked in early and then picking Thresh versus Esri alone. And I think it's a little bit questionable what happened in the pick and ban phase itself. But I think that if, for example, G2 right now, how they are looking, I mean, after the Rocket games, or if they practice properly, will be able to punish Fnatic, and it will get way harder to surprise, you know, like a well-trained team.
Yeah. Harder, but not impossible. I feel like
it's definitely not impossible. Yeah. I think we saw a couple cases where, yes, there's like I think especially game 1, it's very results oriented, because the early laning phase did not play out the way it technically on paper should have, based on our opinions. But then again, game 2, the Vayne made a lot of sense, so that's where an opening. But I think if you play against Sven on bot lane, this guy is really good at, especially even when you listen to his stream, breaking down bot lane matchups to the core and the fundamentals behind it. Therefore, he can extrapolate much better, like, how do you play against a Twitch? And they also have better communication from bot lane to the team when one of these picks needs more ganks or less ganks or needs to be called for a roam. I think the G2 bot lane is catered better at around dealing and containing Reckless and Jezzus.
Oh yeah, the bot lane, because even Mythy with not being on top of his game, arguably this split, he also has that knowledge, which is pretty insane for that bottom lane. So we'll see what happens there, and we are going to dive deeper on next week's fight for the finals and get a word in with Fnatic's coach Finley. So if you're joining us in client, be sure to load up youtube.com/LOL Esports for the full-length edition of the post-game lobby. And with that, as we speak, Dracos is standing by with Fnatic's coach, so let's send it over for a word.
Thank you, Shox. Excited to be sitting here with Finley once again after a victorious 3-0 series over H2K. Now, I'm curious what your role looked like in this week preparing for this series versus H2K.
Well, I guess I can touch a little bit on what Soaz said. Everyone just thinks that we play like we only get wins because of the comfort champs with Shen, Lee Sin, Kennen. So we knew for sure these three champions are going to be banned, right? So basically what I just do is make sure that we have good preparation going into the week. So when we go into the week, I'm telling players we should plan for this, we should plan for this, we should make sure we have a counter for this, and we can make sure that we can blind this, and in which scenarios that this is good. And then we basically just play our scrims out like this is what's gonna happen. Even if Shen, Kennen, and Lee Sin in scrims were not banned, we just wouldn't pick these champions because we just knew they were going to be banned. And because of this, well, it shows we were really prepared for today's games.
I mean, it definitely looked like it, and I'm curious for you, standing up on stage, talking to those guys through picks and bans, was there ever a moment of doubt or hesitation when you're telling them to lock in some of these picks that we may not view as conventional?
I think the drafts in all three games, we went into the games really confident because we got exactly what we wanted as in terms of how the draft phase went. It was exactly what we prepared for the whole week, except for maybe with the old Vayne lock-in. Martin had to convince me really hard to play Vayne, and I let him go with it after his logic was good. So we just went with Vayne. We hadn't played a single game of Vayne at all, I think, this whole year in Scrim, and maybe one game in 2 months ago. So, and he just turned up as he always does. So, yeah, I mean, it was pretty good there, I think, in terms of draft-wise.
Definitely looked good for the team, even if there were a lot of question marks. It seemed to prove anyone who would doubt the draft phase wrong. But looking at expectations for H2K, was this a style that you expected to work well against H2K, or was this just the best style that you guys could play?
Well, as I said, we learned a lot from Unicorns, right? We play a lot similar to them, only I guess with more cheesier picks or more different picks. And they 2-0'd H2K, right, in their most recent series. So we were actually very quietly confident going into the series that H2K were going to be overconfident and just think, oh, if we ban Kennen, Shen, and Lee Sin, then we're going to win. But I think we were actually very confident that they didn't know how we were going to counter this. And we were actually, Caps for sure said it was going to be a 3-0. He's been saying this for the whole week, so I guess it was true.
All right, well, good to hear that Caps is confident as well. Definitely earned it. Now, your next opponent, G2, I talked to Soaz a little bit about this already, but are you at all worried that now that you've shown so many of these picks on stage that you may not have as many tricks up your sleeve, as many options when it comes into picking up against G2?
Well, they can't ban everything, right? You saw in Game 3, they were like, oh, we have to ban the LeBlanc and then Ryze. And they were like, okay, we're just going to play Shen and Kennen, and we're going to get a free win with Shen and Kennen. So I think what Prolly said was very incorrect when he said we're easier to prepare against than Roccat, because as we showed here, we're not an easy team to prepare against. We're going to first time stuff on stage, like Soaz, he's known for first timing champions on stage. Martin just first time Twitch and Vayne on stage. So I don't think you can predict what we're going to do, and I think this gives us a huge advantage against G2.
Definitely looking forward. Now, in the weeks to come, do you think it's going to be a similar preparation strategy? Is it going to be cookie cutter? Do you feel confident that you can just do exactly what you did this week against G2, or is it going to have to be a different strategy overall? I
think G2 are quite a similar team to H2K. There are 3 teams in Europe that play very similar in terms of Misfits, G2 and H2K. They're very slow, and they play the same sort of style like Ashe comps and with Syndra and Tank Top. So I think we can definitely have a good shot against G2 just because they're maybe a better version of H2K, and today we 3-0 the H2K, so I think definitely anything is possible.
One of the first people I've sat down with, you and Soaz both, who are so confident in a series versus G2, and frankly, it's good to hear. They have been the Kings for a long time.
Well, we nearly beat them, and also we should have won our series against them. Like that game is really sad. I should be an undefeated coach right now, but unfortunately, I'm not.
Not quite, but we'll see if we can improve the win rate, see what happens in the week to come. Thank you so much, Finley, for taking the time to sit down and talk with me. We'll send it back over to Shocks and the guys at the desk to further talk about what we saw today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dracos and Finley. That was great.
I really liked the interviews, by the way. From both, they were very genuine. I think they spoke from the heart and a little bit easygoing.
Wouldn't you talk from the heart? A whole split. You're going up against the odds. You have this project that's not working out. You're not meshing.
Casters are flaming you all the time.
The casters are flaming you.
That never happens.
Fans are flaming, and then this happens.
I just cannot,
You cannot imagine what it's like for a team to be underestimated.
No, but really, really enjoyable interviews by both people, and I really feel that Fnatic has a lot more confidence than I expected them to. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be excited for G2 vs Fnatic coming up.
Super excited. I mean, I think they have every right to be confident just now. They just have to temper it in their preparation for the next game, right?
I think it's cool when you look at the pick and ban, and we were always saying, you know what, Fnatic, they're going a little bit off meta here, and therefore they don't have a good pick and ban. And maybe Nico was trying to contain the animal style that now Soaz called, but maybe Finley just had to let it loose, go full zoo, go full animal style, and you get to play this champion for the first time on stage and be proud of it. Maybe Fnatic should just stop screaming altogether and just first time everything.
But the important thing that he said, and what you really need to underline in scrims especially, is ideas that the people have. So like Martin obviously went into the Vayne picks saying like it's good versus Gragas, good versus Tahm-Kench, good versus Ezreal. Like I can really get through laning phase here, deal tons of damage, and there's no way that they can kill me. And there's really no like back answer from that, like this is a bad idea because this and this is not working. So I really think that they were just smart going into the pick and ban phase, and I'm really happy, that they let their players do what they think is best.
I mean, you're sending a message to G2, obviously, and I love that Finley, he just not looked straight in the camera and said, well, they thought we were easier to prepare against, but we're not. We have this, and we did this, and we did this. He was overdoing it maybe a little bit, but fine. You can after a moment like that.
I think you need the ability to bring great practice to the stage, but then also if you want to have the gusto to go for like a first-time pick on stage and your team can pull it off, definitely go for it. Like, the Vayne made so much sense, but I'm such a big fanboy of this Vayne pick. Like, I think it was super smart.
I don't know why Reckless is not meeting the fans right now, but I just...
He wasn't last week. Like, so
no, he wasn't. He's in the zone, right?
From what we can understand, he's basically on shut-off mode where there's no interviews, no fan meets, focused on the game all the time. And just wants to take that approach to keep his mindset as like focused as he can. It's an approach we need to respect until hopefully they win the finals, and then we might.
Oh, he gets to talk. I mean, it's worked out here. He carried a lot of the games in games 1 and 2. Well, and we always say that, but together with Brox and together with Caps, and the whole team was on the same page, which gave us a fantastic game 3 from the side of Fnatic. That is, and let's dial a bit deeper into that one. Sheepy, earlier you asked about the mid lane matchups, and we have Exile here as well. So talk me through this Aurelion Sol Syndra matchup, what should happen and what ended up happening.
So usually in this matchup, it's early in favor for Aurelion. Like you can land a few Ws and get a bit pressure early in the lane. But once Syndra hits 6, Aurelion simply becomes too squishy. And he's also not running Exhaust, because he kind of needs cleanse against Syndra at least, as he gets permagang. And yeah, with this cleanse, then he just pretty much dies to every Syndra combo. And this is like basically how Syndra should have pressure in the lane.
What happened then?
Yeah.
Basically, they misplayed the dive, I believe, and based on this, he got a bit more items, a bit more HP, and could play the lane passive. I think he lost pressure at some point and even died one-on-one, but he still managed to provide a lot for his team.
Yeah, I think so too. I would have really liked to have, the insight from Caps, what he was thinking when he picked up the matchup. Like, this is really interesting. He probably had like a good idea, like this champion pushes out first and then roams, or later on in team fights he's too tanky, or the ultimate outranges Syndra. Like, there's some ideas that you can like emphasize, or maybe the Q gets so large and it can outrange the Syndra or something. I would have really liked, that's like super interesting as a coach. You're looking into that, and maybe also as a viewer. So I'm happy, it ended up well. However, what we saw when he got one-on-one killed is something we should have seen more, and especially if the dive is successful, then the Aurelion Soldiers, it's a totally different story.
Yeah, and you also look at this game and they're 2-0 up, so whatever is a little advantage in a game like that just mentally turns into a huge momentum. They had the Shen also, they had Jess having a great series on Camille, the Kennen was out there finally, so yeah, everything was under a magnifying glass.
Yeah, and also just you have that surprise effect. Like the most mid laners play against Aurelion Sol, I think, is just against a few one tricks in solo queue. I don't think this is quite a meta champion.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't think that Febvin, like in the past few weeks of scrims, he probably didn't even play against a single Aurelion Sol. And then you don't know the limits of the champion, as we spoke about it earlier. And the champion just has such a, like early you can freeze a bit with the pick, like his W is quite strong early, and some mid laners disrespect this and then get a bit out-traded. I think he even had a good trade this game, in early game.
Level 1 he put like 4 W stacks.
Yeah, exactly. And this is just, a good pick. And I mean also, the mobility of the champion is like quite unique. Like, okay, with Talon coming in now, this is quite similar. But still, it's like hard to call when the champion roams.
It's the same with Twitch, right? Like in essence, you can always say, guys, Twitch is missing. But at one point, Twitch can show a bot, can show up a side lane. You don't know when to pressure out. The same way when you play with an Aurelion Sol, like this guy can arrive in bot lane much faster than other mid laners. So you're used to a pattern where mid laner says, okay, this guy just disappeared from mid. In your mind, you have 10 seconds to still push out your lane and then walk back. Aurelion Sol could already be there, for example. So it's all these little things that you need to get used to. Same with if you play versus an Evelynn, you're so used to warding next to your lane. Well, it's useless when you're playing against a champion that can go invisible, so you need to start warding the camps. But to do that safely, you need to change the way you approach your wave control. It's all these little things that are contingent on what champion you play against, and that's why you scream exactly. If you play them versus new champions, you need to be either a really smart player or you will find yourself surprised.
Yeah, and I think that's really the thing that people need to train the most is analytical ability. And also correct mindset, being humble and respectful, because anything can beat you, and you should be absolutely determined that you want to win this game so badly. So you need to invest every second you have to actually try to prepare. So if you're going forward into the game and you're seeing like a Twitch, you instantly need to think, okay, what's weaknesses, what is strength, how's the game going to be shaping? You really need to think that early. Otherwise, you're going to be hit by a surprise, and one surprise can turn the game around. So. And that's also one thing that can win you the game as well, if you find one weakness, one crack.
Is something like that made more difficult by the fact that obviously you have a Korean bot lane, so you, even though your communication is fine for any standard situation and you've gone through a lot already, this is a very unique situation, right? You get this unique pick that you have to all of a sudden as a team talk through and come up with a plan in a short period of time.
It can just be like, yes, there's a language barrier there, but it can even be harder with certain players that have a harder time expressing certain concepts. You know, not everybody is as well spoken, even within European players, for example. But yeah, you need people that can think quick, and then you need coaching staff that always ask you the why the mistake happened, as opposed to like, I remember back in the day, people would open up a replay and it's like, yeah, but if you aimed your Q a little bit more to the left, you would have hit him, right? But that is not what you guys focus on in replays, I imagine.
We're asking less why, because why is very judgmental. It like means an opinion from you. Like why would you do this? Is, you know.
But what went wrong here? I mean,
it's more like how. Like how does it interact? What did you think about it? Like what are your thoughts process? Because mostly when I ask a player, I just, you know, like kind of as a viewer, you're trained to be judgmental like very quickly because you want to have an opinion.
As a human.
As a human as well. Like into any, as a caster especially. And then you're just saying this is bad. But mostly, if I you know, be humble and then listen to the people, then I always hear like I played around this minion dying, reaching level 5, dangerous game, something like this, and I'm like, holy crap, you know, that's such a smart play. I couldn't have thought of this. So this is really where you should just ask after every scrim and nurture this kind of analytical ability. What do they think about? And try to refine that so that people always go into the mindset, always in pick and bans, know what is super, super successful for them and can apply that in game and win. It is, I mean, how H2K must be feeling right now is like really, really bad for them. And I think that will shape them also in the future to be more focused on this success.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to listen how you guys approach these problems, or should I say opportunities that haven't presented themselves yet. I think it's very good to get that insight. And would you say that's also, if you look at a player that you possibly want to join your team in the past or whatnot, or is that part of kind of the qualities that you want from a player, not only the mechanical ability or whatnot, but how, as an attitude, he can shape within the team?
Yes, I think it's both. Like, he shapes the team and the team shapes him. The stronger your personality is, the more it likes going to paint onto him. So for us, after our experience and having people that really know what they want in life, I think it just goes really easy to implement somebody and say, we want to really win, and this is like the reason we are here. And everything that provides towards this and like is we will have happen. and we will make sure that this is something you want, because this is this is kind of the reason we are together as a team, and that really fits together.
Good intrinsical values, and you guys are #1 in Group B, and I just want to go back to Week 8, where you guys beat H2K 2-0. H2K then came out and say, well, this was obviously an off day for us, it didn't work, and we then said, possibly this is a very expensive off day because you could be giving up your bye and your first place to the Unicorns of Love, and lo and behold, they find themselves in the quarterfinals as absolutely favorites versus Fnatic, and now lose 0-3. So let's talk a bit about that, because it's all sunshine and rainbows for Fnatic right now, but how hard will this influence the players of H2K? What in the end went wrong here outside of picks and bans? I mean, can you even make any assertions?
I mean, if you look at H2K over the years, they've always had issues with late game team fighting and also with kind of tunneling on calls.
There was no late games though.
Yeah, well, there was no late games, but like there have been persistent issues that H2K as a team over multiple rosters have always like came back to. So maybe some of the core members are failing there, or there is no system in place to fix that, and that is definitely an issue.
I think also, like, if you look at each game, basically, like every lane from Fnatic almost always won, actually, like in every game. And like even if they had like losing matchups, right, they just played around it, like in the first game bottom lane, or even in the LeBlanc game, they just played around mid lane. And yeah, this was just, they know their strengths, they know their weaknesses. They just play around it. Maybe they just see the opportunity in game as well, and they like capitalize on this. And this is like really nice to see. And also the fact that H2K didn't really like adapt in the game. I mean, we also saw, for instance, the move in the first game where they got like the mid lane turret based on like super good macro where they hide in the pink ward. Like this is stuff that not many people do, actually, because it's like a bit fishy to do. But yeah, like if you can pull this off and if you can think about it while you like in the game, then this is like an insane advantage that you can get.
Yeah. I think just to answer the question, for H2K right now, I mean, I don't know too well the players and the coach, like, since we're not talking too much. I know, for example, the owner, Susan, and, you know, they're all really, really great people. And I guess this is, like, really hard on them, the loss, because now they have, like, kind of forced vacation as well, and they're going to see all the top teams, and this is also something that's going to be embedded in your brain. So, and I would really like to hear like the side from H2K. So maybe if there's like any kind of interviews, just to see, you know, what their thoughts are, because, you know, benefit of the doubt, it's really easy to be like judgmental here. But maybe they had really good ideas and we're just not able to translate them on stage. But from our point of view, I really agree from Exile. There was a lot going wrong. Lanes were not winning, and in the end, the team cohesion wasn't there.
Yeah, that's maybe the biggest thing, right? That those lanes aren't winning, because usually, not that the bot lane was a super favorite, but they lose lanes that were very hard.
Yeah, it brings up an interesting debate where if you're a team that practices a lot, you can practice routines. Like say like there is a correct way to lane swap, you can practice that 20 times and you will know how it goes. But if you never get to practice the why and the concepts behind it, the second the lane swap meta changes, you have to practice 20 times again. But if you can teach a team the why and the concept behind it, maybe you can only need 3 scrims for that, you know? And I think that's the same thing. I think bot lane is the same as a concept, but like you never know what exactly went wrong. Maybe somebody choked on stage, you got a little nervous. Maybe there was a communication breakdown. It only takes one bad call to ruin everything. If suddenly you're on stage, you're not in your comfort zone, you talk a little bit less, which means the information doesn't flow to your jungler doesn't flow back to you, and it all breaks down. There's a whole myriad of reasons of what could have happened. Yep,
and it all came together for Fnatic. So our big question here is their next opponent, G2. So as in Finley alluded to it, well, we should have beat them last time. Yeah, but you didn't. And now you're going up against in a semi-final. Did we see enough of the playoff buff? Did this 3 games give us enough confidence to say that there's a real chance here for Fnatic to beat G2?
I think that I would definitely like to see more from Fnatic. Like those games today were like super exciting.
Yeah.
Also the picks they had were like, yeah, really crazy picks. I think they, like if they play like today, then yeah, they have a shot against G2. Like also the G2 that we saw like against Rocket didn't look that like impressive, like the G2 from before, which is like really solid and always consistent. But yeah, I think that Fnatic has a good chance.
Maybe let's quickly run down the lanes. Very quickly. I mean, this could take a while, but we got time. Very quickly. Xpex versus Soaz. You can go first.
Oh, well, what an interesting lane. The problem is we don't know. Like, we had all this analysis based on, like, trends, and we looked at it versus Fnatic and H2K.
Trends-based analysis.
And we were like, okay, H2K top favorite. Now Fnatic come out swinging. and you're like, G2 is supposed to be smarter, but like, I don't know, I was dead wrong. It swung
we
like
know nothing.
the total opposite. We wouldn't know until we see what they play. What we do know is Fnatic can't get outbanned with only 3 bans, and even if you hit a certain player in the second ban phase, he will whip out a Vayne. And I think that was super interesting, and it makes me just really excited for that matchup.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
So expect versus SOAS, I have no answer.
Okay, that's fine. And I guess the question is then also, even if you whip out these weird or new picks again or whatever, you're probably not going to win every single lane versus G2, that chance. I mean, we said, actually, we know nothing anymore.
Maybe.
Let's just leave it at that.
However, I have to say, this match, if G2 is going to lose, that would be an insane upset. Like, obviously, it's cool now. He played the Twitch, they played the Vayne, they played, you know, Kennen, Shen, Aurelion, Soul, and everyone's like, okay, that's really cool style. But really, G2 is kind of the wall that they have to overcome. And
because they're the team that practices the Y, right? They're so smart usually.
I think that they are smart because a lot of stuff when we are scrimming against them and how they use wave control and how they are aware of things that are happening and actually, you know, reacting to them properly, it's really, really cool. Like, the game becomes so exciting, and especially for us who's like investing all the time, this is fun. So yeah, I mean, against Rocket they didn't seem too strong, but I would still consider G2 really strong and would be a big upset.
It's also like when you know the why is something like, why do you do something in the game, then basically you can also adapt way better. Because then you know exactly what you want in the game. And okay, they pick a different champion, but you still know how to get it. Like, because every champion has in some way weaknesses. And I think that G2 is way better at this than H2K. Also think that, especially like in the series, I felt like Caps was dominating Fabian a bit, like in the mid lane, in almost every game except the third one, which was a tough matchup. And I think that Perks is, regarding to this, he can like contain Caps way better.
All right. Well, super interesting. I just think that in general, without bias towards one team or the other, the playoffs have gotten a lot spicier all of a sudden. A very interesting bunch of upsets. Well, on the other side of the ELCS standings, the summer promotion tournament is in full swing, and Stress is here to give us the lowdown.
Absolutely. You alluded to perhaps the analyst desk not having a couple of things that they're aware of, but one thing we know for certain, and that is the teams in the second round of the promotion tournament. Because this week, Challenger teams proved their dominance over the bottom 2 EU LCS squads. First of all, Fnatic Academy was selected as the opponents for the Giants. And oh boy, did that turn out to be a tough matchup for them. Giants would win the first game of the series in what looked to have been Fnatic Academy with a certain win for themselves. It went all the way to a 4th game. Fnatic looked more dominant all the way through the games, and finally the last game just kind of swept Giants aside. It kind of showed Giants that perhaps it wasn't the right choice of opponents, or so we thought after day 1, because Fnatic Academy looked great, but so did Misfits Academy. The opponents for Origin. Origin were looking for their first series win of the year, and they did not find it against the Misfits sister team. Misfits threw everything at Origin, and Pridestalker once again proved that he is a jungler that is a force to be reckoned with in the promotion tournament. Even a pentakill coming through in this series, like everything went Misfits Academy's way, and Origin, unfortunately, again winless in this series. 3-0 Misfits Academy advance, and that means that the battle for a chance to play in the big leagues continues Thursday, when we'll be bringing you 2 best-of-5s with a lot on the line. First up, Misfits Academy versus Fnatic Academy. The winner graduates into the EU LCS. That series begins at 2 p.m. Central European Summertime, and then directly following it, Origin versus Giants in a loser leaves town match. The loser of this will no longer be in the LCS and will play out the summer split in Challenger Series. Our broadcast of that matchup begins at 7 p.m. European summertime. Back to the analyst desk. There's surely a lot to talk about with so much on the line so deep into the season.
Well, definitely so. And I mean, first off, the fact that we will for sure have a new team in the LCS next split.
Excited.
Yeah?
I love the fact that both Academy teams won, because it shows that the bottom tier teams in LCS were just not pulling their weight. The fact that not all rookies, but like most of the other rookies consisting teams can just smash their win the way they did. It also means a new organization in the LCS, because obviously Fnatic can't have 2 teams, Misfits can't have 2 teams, so these guys will have to be bought out. Maybe it brings an exciting new name in there. Like, it means a lot of good things for EU LCS.
Yeah, were you guys surprised at all by the way the first round of the promotion tournament went, and with Giants and Origin not being able to...
I was quite surprised by the Giants game against Misfits, because I actually expected Giants to win because they have like more stage experience just all this time in the LCS they spent. And actually, Giants is not such a bad team. Like, I didn't, like, at the start of the split, I didn't think at all that they would get into the promotion tournament. But yeah, I was quite surprised. Misfits Academy is actually playing really well. So they definitely deserve it if they make it.
Yeah, and Giants also selected Fnatic Academy. They kind of sealed their own fate there, which was unlucky. We'll see what happens. Very excited to see how those matches play out, and also excited for the rest of our playoffs. Remember to tune in for our first semi-final series next Saturday. G2 is the new challenge for a Fnatic team on a roll, and that series begins at 5 p.m. Central European Summertime, followed by the Unicorns of Love, Animal Style versus the Misfits the next day. And, well, it's about time. We had you guys on the desk here, but we haven't seen Unicorns in a while. Are you guys anxious to get to your playoff run?
This would be really nice to make it to the finals in Hamburg, especially because, you know, Power of Evil is the only German mid laner left, beside me in the LCS, and basically the only German. And if we win, then yeah, there's only one German in Hamburg.
Then they have to root for you. They have to root for you. They have no
Yeah, they have no choice.
Yeah, so I would like to be the only German in the finals. So I'm really motivated to do well.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys, you are from Hamburg.
I'm also German, but
you're also German.
Player.
No, it's all for you. It just has a lot of emotional momentum
I'm absolutely amazed that I can go to Hamburg. I mean, I'm coming from there. All my friends are coming there. We have like 17 people we know. We have like a VIP launch, and it's amazing. I'm really looking forward.
You know what? I really like that. We'll definitely get you tickets for the show. You can sit in the crowd then.
They could play the third place match also.
Huh?
They could play the third place match. They're going either way.
Yeah,
actually, we have to go either way.
Yeah.
So.
Burn
there goes my burn. All right.
Burn failed.
Let's wrap it up.
All right. And on the other side of the Atlantic, the second quarterfinal series in the NA/LCS between FlyQuest and CLG is just a few minutes away, actually, 25, 24. You want a little prediction in there, or will the FlyQuest hype train?
The FlyQuest hype train has been running on a fuel a little bit. No, I'm.
Obviously.
I guess I can be biased because it's NA/LCS and not European LCS. So I would love to see Aphromoo shock all at home one more time.
Right. Have you guys been watching a lot of it, or been able to watch a lot of it?
I haven't watched too much NA/LCS, like more focused on SCK and EU. But I think that overall, from what I've seen, I think that CLG is going to take it.
I think so too. I think FlyQuest really showed a lot in the early stages, with surprise picks, and played like different styles. But I think now it's kind of slowed down, and CLG really seems to be the stronger team.
But Cheapy, who takes the EU playoffs?
There's only one team I can root for, so yes, I think we have a really good shot. But it's so exciting, and after today, anything can happen.
I mean, if you talk about the stars or the unicorns lining up, getting to go to Hamburg in front of that unicorn home crowd, because that's in the end where the organization also is born. This is a this is a unique chance, I would say, and you guys have a great lineup, but dreaming is dangerous.
Yes, we will focus on practicing hard every day, every moment, and then be ready for hopefully the finals, or for now the semifinals.
All right, well, dreaming is dangerous, but I get to be on the desk with awesome people, which is a dream come true every day. Time for us to log off for tonight. Thank you, guys. Can repay, also say, yeah, it's also nice to know. All right, okay.
I mean, yes, you can dream about me, if that's what you're saying.
All right, remember, you guys, that we are raising the stakes next week with the semifinals starting on Saturday. We will see you then. Have a great night and great dreams.